All right, teammates. We are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Been number one for about 2 years now, straight every single day. Every single day, it's a new episode. You know how we get down here. So, to my regular listeners, like I said, you already know how we roll here. Whatever the challenge is, whatever the obstacle is, whatever you may be feeling like is getting in your way, we're here to indirectly tell you you are not going through it alone. At this point, you regular listeners would have heard from Brad Chandler already. And let me just tell you how serious I take this podcast and how serious I take the people that have been on the show and I really actually follow up and do the work they tell me to do. So you guys heard Brad talking all about this quiz. I mean, every single like, you got to take the quiz, man. You got to take the quiz. You got to take the quiz. So I made sure my ass took that quiz on it's Limitless You. It's there, Limitless You. I made sure
Unlock
I took
Limitless You.
yeah, that's right. Unlock Limitless You. I made sure I took that quiz and I got my feedback. And what happened was the lady that he was speaking so highly about on the show called me, and it just so happened that she had already booked a schedule, booked to be on this podcast as well. So, all that being said, Yvonne Trost, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be
Yeah,
here.
I'm happy to have you because you, like Brad, I mean, unbelievable energy. It's no secret as to how you guys found each other. I think it's an awesome thing that you guys did get connected, that your paths did cross. But you have your own identity. You have your own like ability to look. I'm an individual before I can be anybody for anybody. And it was a process for you to get there. And you now call yourself the
Absolutely.
Chief Happiness Officer, which I think is an incredible title that you've given yourself. I'm pretty sure you're the only one that has that actual title. But I want to kind of go back a little bit because you, like I said, it doesn't just happen overnight. This wonderful,
Right.
great energy that you bring in, you lived through some pretty horrific things growing up. So I'm going to give you the mic a little bit to talk a little bit about your background, how you grew up, and how maybe, just in an environment where you felt like you had to do what your parents told you, but you knew they loved you, but you felt like there was kind of not steering you in the right direction. So I'll let you kind of talk about that a little bit.
Sure, sure. I think it all starts with the fear of the unknown,
That was yeah, that's it. Yep.
right? Rather, I have very loving parents,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I had a really normal, fine childhood,
Mm-hmm.
right? We
We all
tend to
do. We
normalize.
really all do. Like, I mean, when you really think about it, the adult tells when you think about being a kid, you don't know any better. You don't come in knowing and having your own thoughts. Like it's just what it is. You know.
Yeah, because it's normalized when
Mhm.
it's all you see. And
Yes.
I was even more sheltered because I grew up in a town of 2,400 in
Yeah.
the middle of cornfields. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
even more sheltered, right? I never thought I would leave the country because I thought that's just what the really wealthy people did. I thought private school was just for the really, really wealthy people. I
Exactly.
had really no awareness of the diversity and the richness and the opportunities and the possibilities, right? My parents are amazing people. They grew up very, very poor, right? My dad walked cornfields when he was 6 years old to help on the family farm. My mom's mom made her clothes and they got, eggs from the hen house.
Hmm.
They never wanted that for me, right? So everything they did, whether it was grounding me for getting if I didn't get straight A's or comparing me to my peers or not focusing on sports and saying go to school, go to business, go to all this, do all these things, right?
Hmm.
It wasn't because they didn't love me. It wasn't because they didn't think I was good enough. It was
Right.
because they had a fear of me not having enough like they didn't have enough and they just wanted better for me. So
Yes.
if you're listening, you probably can resonate with that. A
Yes.
lot of you,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Everybody, so not everybody has that blessing, but a lot of us do, or our parents just try their best.
Hmm.
So this isn't about beating up your family, whether you had a good family or a bad family, no family or a huge family. All this really about is awareness.
Hmm.
And so I grew up with very little awareness. I
Hmm.
grew up in a very like kind of narrow mindset, stay safe, live beneath your means, don't take chances, get a safe job, get married, have kids and a house by a certain age.
It's
Right?
crazy how that, I mean, just what you described again, I'm very similar to you. I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland. It's more of the metropolitan area. But again, my parents, and I say this all the time, they were not billionaires, but they were rich compared to where they came from. Again, my mother would tell me all the time she grew up very poor in Trinidad and Tobago. My father ran his own business, and that fear of the unknown, it is not a they're not saying that they don't love you. They're just putting their own fears on you. And sometimes that growth kind of hurts when you start to realize, hey, I got to make my own legacy. I got to go to school and I have to go and take on the world and take on the challenges in a way that I feel comfortable for. Now, I don't want to use the word comfortable here, but in a way that I know the best I can. I'm putting my best foot forward. So when you talk about your teenage years and these years where you start growing up and making decisions on your own, what was that transition like for you to go from, young girl to teenage and now transition into an adult to where, all of a sudden you blink your eye and boom, it's like the world's on your shoulders. It's like, Yvonne, you got to figure it out because, mommy and daddy, they kind of got their stuff together. They kind of got
Yeah.
their set in their own ways. Now I got to figure out what exactly is going to make me, be the woman I want to be.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm gaining more awareness. I think I and many of us, we go through it asleep.
Yes, we do.
So
Realize
I
because
have
it
to,
happens so fast though. It really does. Like
yeah,
never. I'm gonna be 36 in January, and I never. I'm like, gee, when the hell did that? How did that happen?
I know,
When
right?
did 36 come? It's crazy to think about how fast this stuff happens, man.
Yeah, I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old,
Uh-huh.
and I'm trying to be very conscious of how I parent them and also help them understand and try to waken up. And they think that I'm like kind of woo-woo, but
Mhm.
so I grew up very much asleep. Like you had to get a certain grade, you needed to be in a certain clique, right? If you weren't, then you felt bad about yourself.
Mhm.
You needed to look a certain way and you needed to wear certain things and drive certain things. Like I'm sure this is whether you're like really wealthy or really poor, these are all common things that I think a lot of children feel
Mhm.
growing up because we're still tribal people and we want to be a part of some kind of tribe. We want to belong. We want to be connected. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, because we're disconnected from ourselves, because we're not taught that, like you and I are talking about when we met, right? They
Yeah.
don't teach you human being 101.
They're
They
not.
don't even give you the quick start guide,
They
right?
they brush that. They kind of brush that off. It's just like
Yeah.
Joan shit.
So you don't even know who you are or how to figure out who you are. All you're taught is how to be like somebody else.
Right.
And so that's what my high school was all about. And then in college, like,
Mhm.
okay, so I'm going to give away my age, but I didn't have access to the internet except for school.
No, yes,
Like,
as young as a
so
yeah, listen, old is a state of mind, age is a state of mind.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
only
We won't put no age,
keyboard,
won't put no numbers to that. I
the
got
only, just to
you.
give people awareness though, the only electronics that I touched were keyboarding class,
Keyboarding class. Okay, thanks.
keyboarding class. And I was really fast at keyboarding class. But I tell
I
you
used to
that
take those classes
because
though.
you need to understand. Like when I'm getting ready to go to college, I ask my mom, I'm filling out these paper forms still, by the way,
Hmm.
and it's a school of business or arts and sciences. I'm like, Mom, which one do I choose? I don't even know what that means. She's
Wow,
like, Oh, you got to make money, go to business school.
really?
So then okay, that's what I did.
Right.
Right. Even though I was creative, it kind of like got squished out of me, right?
Hmm.
Or suppressed down because that wasn't going to make the money that was going to keep me safe.
Yes.
And so then I went away to school. I didn't even know, like, because I had a job when I was 15. My parents like put, you need to get a job. You need to get a job. You got to pay for your gas. You got to do
Yeah.
those things, right? So it wasn't kind of all of a sudden that I had adulthood put on me. Like I kind of like was trained,
Hmm.
from a very early age. Even when I went to college, I thought I didn't know this, but I thought I had to. I'm like, Mom, did I have to pay for certain things? She's like, Yeah, and you went out and you got three jobs and you still graduated summa cum laude. And I was always bragging about you because I never told people that you had to pay for your own stuff, but you just did.
Hmm.
And so it's so funny how I remembered it. And I didn't actually remember it fully until I had the conversation with my mom about what was happening.
Hmm.
That's how asleep I was. Like, I didn't even know. Like, I just assumed I had to do that.
Right.
Right. Because when you get trained at a very early age, you just kind of go on this automatic programming.
Right.
And so, that's what we talk about. By the time you're 35, 95% of what you say, do, think, act, personality, everything
Hmm.
is driven by your subconscious, was just on autopilot.
Hmm.
And most of that was programmed before you were 10.
Right.
It's wild. So if you're like, what is she talking about? I don't know. I don't know if that applies to me.
Hmm.
Just slow down and take notice. Like when you feel these emotions, or when you get angry, or when you yell, or when you get scared, or when you withdraw, you're not consciously thinking about those things,
Hmm.
right? All those things are just like, boom, my brain thinks you're not safe. So either fight, flight, or freeze,
Right.
right? You got to go into survival mode. And
Right.
that's all that is,
Hmm.
right?
So and we're gonna get into because you had work. I believe you worked. Was the career? Was it cybersecurity that you were working before you got into like self development and?
So it was everything. So I grew up thinking I was going to change jobs. So I went to college for finance, intern at a
Yeah.
bank, intern at a brokerage firm. Didn't want to do either of those. So I joined a consulting firm. So
Right.
I worked, it was back then Anderson Consulting, then I was Accenture. So for 25 years, I did business and IT strategy
That was
consulting.
it. Yeah. I see. Now
And
we're
you
gonna
name
get.
it,
Yeah,
you do a
that's what
lot of different things for 25 years.
because you transitioned to like hypnosis and self development. But based on what you said, I'm curious now because I think it bring a lot of value to our listeners. Is as you think about the way your mother raised you in terms of kind of letting you have a job and letting you pay your own way, what kinds of things do you pull from that and into raising your own kids now? Like, what kinds of things do you say to them to say, hey, maybe you don't need to just pay for everything? Or how do you sort of balance what you learned growing up this and apply it to the way you parent your kids now?
Yes. So, it's very interesting because I can see both sides of this coin. I
Yeah,
am
because they were well intended. They weren't,
I am so grateful for my parents teaching me
right.
to never live above my means.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that they taught me a good work ethic. They paid for some things, but then the extras or the discretionary, I earned, through my jobs.
Yes.
So they taught me about work. They taught me about the value of money. They taught me about, you know, not getting yourself into a place where you be in trouble.
Hmm.
That part I really value, and I wouldn't change that part at all. The part, and I'm trying to give that to my kids as well. The part that I want to add to it or change slightly is this finite mindset,
Hmm.
or this, money doesn't grow on trees and they call it work for a reason. You're not supposed to enjoy it.
Exactly. That's
That
what
part I would change
right, right.
because I do believe you can have both.
Hmm.
Like, I believe that had I not had such a fear of the unknown and playing it safe, I wouldn't have waited 25 years, right, to make a change, right?
Exactly.
What happened for me is like had a terrible divorce about 10 years ago, maybe 11 now. And then I found my friend introduced me to yoga. And then from yoga came also meditating. And then from meditating, I leaned into neuroscience and quantum physics and started getting really interested in manifesting. And I actually believe I manifested Brad and I
Right,
because he was getting trained for the hypnotherapy. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting.
right.
I didn't quite understand that. I was kind of thinking, like most of you that are listening, are like, oh, that's kind of woo-woo stage stuff. You're gonna make me like bark like a dog and quack like a chicken. It's not that.
Not that at all. We've had well, you guys regular listeners, you already heard from them, so you already know it's not that at all.
Yeah, it's not that. But I thought I still don't quite understand this. I'm thinking about my doing this for my oldest because he had some troubles dealing with my ex-husband that he was working through with his dad. But I'm like, let me be the guinea pig. So I let Brad like train with me, right? I didn't go into a deep trance. Some people do, right? You're still safe, you're still in control, but I didn't go into a deep trance. I didn't have any new memories. A lot of people do, right? Things that they don't remember. But what happened for me as one was I had this amazing connection, and this is part of what it is it's bringing your subconscious mind, what it knows, into the awareness of your conscious mind,
Hmm.
and then realizing what those limiting beliefs were that had been putting you on an autopilot for a course that you never set, nor
Yeah,
one that you wanted to be on,
right.
right?
So when you
So
talk
for
about
me, my journey was like, it was a long journey.
yeah,
I
and
was thinking about changing careers for 24 years.
hmm
Just going through that process alone I did it in less than 6 months.
Right. And the thing is, when you're speaking about limiting beliefs, it crosses over in every area of the life. It's just not professional. It's not just a personal thing. It's not just romantic. It crosses over in every element. And I'm so glad that you shared what you shared because I deal with a lot of women, whether it's through sports, whether it's through fitness, whether it's through education, deal with a lot of families and a lot of women who are suffering in very difficult relationships and they don't have the courage to leave. They don't have they
Yes.
kind of, I use the term suffer in silence. So when you think back to everything that you were living through again, you have two kids. You are bouncing around from career to career. You're obviously the marriage is not, you're not happy. I know tons of women out there that have stayed in that situation. Can you kind of just
Yeah.
to them a little bit about how you developed the courage to say, done. I can't do it anymore. I'm not going to be able to survive if I stay in this and kind of at least talk to them a little bit about how you got out of it in general.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you asked that. It's cliche, but it's true. People usually change from inspiration or desperation. And for me, it became desperation. I mean, talk about staying and suffering. So I had the Friday before my due date with my first son. My ex-husband said I was going to lose my job, or he was going to lose his job.
He was going to lose. All right,
He
right.
was going to lose his job, and I had planned on staying home with the kids. Never
Oh
thought
my
I'd do
God.
that
Whoa.
until I got pregnant. I thought I was like a career woman.
Oh my God, wait. I'm trying to not put myself in the man shoe. Okay. Got a kid on the way. Just lost my job, babe. Oof, all right. Now you put me in that like yeah, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so imagine not only this, your wife has always been earning more money,
Right. Oh, okay. So you were the so
and she got pregnant. We got pregnant, and as she's pregnant, thinks, I kind of want to stay at home. And he agrees,
uh
and he's gonna wear the pants.
right.
Then
But
he loses his
but he
pants.
loses his pants
And then
days
come on.
of all days to do it, not even 9 months before, so he could get himself back on his feet. It's like the
Yeah, no. And then it became a succession of him losing his jobs
hmm
over and over again. And the anger got worse
right.
because I wasn't able. Ladies, if you're listening
hmm
and you think I can fix it, you can't. I
Right.
was a fixer, right? I was going to fix him right up. He was good enough, better than nothing, right? And I was
And
going to fix it.
and I have to pause you there just because so this is something that's responsible for the men to you have to take some responsibility from the man's perspective too. And I know talking to a lot of fellas again, the idea of not getting laid regularly and all that kind of stuff. I get it. It's cool for us to take advantage of women, but my ex was kind of in a similar situation where she grew up not having a father in the household. And I kind of told you this before, but I grew up in a situation where I had like 10 to 15, it felt like 10 to 15 different types of fathers between my dad and my uncles. And I found she was just using me to fill a void. When I
Yeah.
recognized that, again, the courage to leave, it took me some time. But as men, when you start to realize, hey, things aren't working out as planned, it's on you to start to develop the courage to say something has to give. We can't just keep losing job after job after job and just expect things to stay the same. Something needs to happen. And men that are listening as well, it's important for you to take that responsibility as well. So I just had to make sure I said that as well.
Yeah, and let me step back. You asked me to speak to the ladies, but can I change it? Can I speak to both?
Please do.
Because I've known plenty of situations where things seemed a little bit on the other side. But here's the deal.
Mm-hmm.
What I have learned, right, is what no matter what relationship you are in, personal, professional, intimate, non-intimate, whether you're male, female, it has nothing to do with the relationship. If the relationship isn't working, if the connection isn't working, has nothing to do with the other individual, and it has nothing to do with the relationship itself. It has everything to do with the relationship you have with your own self because you can't fix anybody else and you can't control all the external things. All
Oh,
you can do is work on you.
oh,
All you can do is get to know you. So I probably rushed my ex-husband into that marriage. He had been married before, but I had a clock and I needed to house and a kids and a husband and a whatever, right?
Small things that you were
So,
talking about before coming back. Yeah.
yeah, so it's all two-sided, right? I probably saw more than just pink flags. I probably saw red flags. But
Mhm.
because of the relationship that I had with myself was that I was not enough because I was at a certain age and I wasn't married and I didn't have kids and I didn't have a home. I had to fix it. But it had nothing to do like all those other things. It was all driven by me.
Yeah.
I was in charge. It was my choice.
Oh.
And then it was my choice to stay because I
Mhm.
kept thinking, I didn't really know anybody that was divorced. I thought like my parents have been married for now over 60 years.
Yeah.
Like you just, yeah, you fought, but that again, going back to what we thought was normal.
Yeah.
I thought that was normal,
Exactly. Exactly.
but it's not good for the kids to stay together. And that's why we do it. And it took me feeling unsafe, my ex-husband jumping on top of me and saying he was going to punch me, and my 7-year-old saying, Mommy, can you get me a new daddy? Because he was physical with him as well. It took that inspiration or desperation.
Right.
So if you're listening and you feel like you're suffering, oh my gosh, we have so many. Go to unlocklimitlessyou.com
Mhm.
/ resources. Not only will you find the quiz that Oswan mentioned, but there's also something in there called the limiting belief lie detector,
Mhm.
right? The very thing you think is your problem, right?
Mhm.
Is your subconscious mind's solution to something it fears is worse. So if you're staying in a relationship, whether you're a man or a woman, and you feel like you're miserable in that relationship, that misery, that staying in that relationship is your subconscious solution to something it fears is worse, which is you being alone and not surviving.
Right.
But you're barely surviving now and you're definitely not thriving. So I hope this conversation tonight
Mhm.
inspires you. So you don't wait for desperation. You don't wait until it's unsafe. You don't wait until your children are asking
Mhm.
for change. And you just see what's best for you. Because when you do what's best for you, it's not selfish to put self health first.
Mhm.
Oswald, it's selfish not to put your self health first because then you can't be your best self for anybody, not your partner, not your kids, not your friends, not your job.
Mhm. What did your transition look like when you really get it? And I'm asking this because as you're talking, I'm thinking about so many of the women that I've had the pleasure of crossing paths with, and so many of the women that have opened up to me. And one in particular that I used to train at a boxing gym that I used to train at the gym named Nine Round. I teach ladies, how to, develop their ones and twos. And, she got so in shape, got so into to put together. But when she spoke about a previous boyfriend and how she would even see him, let's say she saw him 100 yards away, she would still shiver and cry because
Oh,
how much of the domestic abuse she had to deal with him. But when you see this lady, jab, cross, uppercut, hook, boom, boom, I mean, just going at it, smiling, feeling good. She's in what Oprah likes to call the aha, the sweet moment. Can you speak to that moment for you when it happened, when you realize, oh my gosh, I'm free. My babies are here. Um,
yeah.
I was able to do something that broke the trend, broke the pattern, even though staying in whatever situation I was in would have pleased the folks that maybe pleased the people that knew me before. Maybe there was some resistance. Can you speak to when you really realize, hey, I did it. I made the right decision, and now I'm serving these ladies so much, and I'm doing so much more for the world.
Yeah. Well, there's been several of those moments. Um, I would say the first one,
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. Like I'm a recovering control freak and
Yeah.
perfectionist.
Oh yes.
And I thought I had it all planned out. And once the universe like hit me over the head and said, "No, you don't. You got to get ADT because you're worried
Everyone
about
gets
your
that. Everyone gets
your
that, man. Yeah, you're not the only one.
yeah." And they're going to keep coming until you
Mhm.
start learning.
Right.
So I finally gave up. I'm like, I'd rather be alone for the rest of my life than in this marriage. My kids aren't safe. I'm not safe. I want out. It was difficult getting out because in Virginia, you have to be separated for a year,
Hmm.
or showing that you're living on different floors or something when you have kids.
Right.
But after he came close to hitting me, I called all his relatives and all his friends, and they said, you got to get out of the house or you're going to do something that puts yourself in jail.
Hmm.
So got him out of the house. And I still didn't feel that aha moment yet, Oswan. I didn't, not right away. I kept practicing yoga, had the long drawn out thing. And then I'm just like, I'm just gonna be done. I'm just gonna be done. I'm
Hmm.
done with men. I'm done with relationships. I'm gonna focus on me. I started feeling good about myself. I'm gonna focus on my kids. As soon as I stopped like chasing,
Yeah.
feeling like I needed somebody else to like, oh my God, if we watch another movie that says you complete me, like
Yeah.
that's a
I
problem.
mean,
We all believed it.
okay, listen, man, I'm a football guy, and that the romantic piece of that movie didn't hit me until I got older because I was watching it from the football perspective, and I'm like, well, just you complete me stuff. But then I grew up and I realized, oh, I see he's the like the hard agent, and it's hard for him to get out of work, and then he goes and finds a single mother that makes it and says, you complete me. And it
Yeah.
messes a lot of people because guess what, guys? Nobody completes you. No
Yeah.
individual is going to complete you. I don't care. You're just not going to happen. You will complete you based on the work that you're doing on yourself and the work that you're willing to do and the courage. I'm going to keep going. We're probably going to say this word maybe at least 100 times in this interview. It's the courage. It's the courage to call you out on your shit. And I'll be very transparent. I first met with Yvonne and she called me out on my shit. It's like, look, you you use too many excuses. I said to myself, yo, you know what, you're right. And I remember us having just a great conversation because it's kind of a willingness to where something isn't right and I don't know what tomorrow brings, but I know it's better than this shit I'm dealing with now. And I need help in some kind of way. And that's really the place where I want to take the listeners now is, hey, when are you going to say enough is enough? When are you going to actually say enough is enough? Find the people that are actually going to, improve you and really call you out when you're not doing the things that you need to be doing. So I'm sure you encounter a lot of that in your line of work. Can you kind of speak a little bit to when, again, you meet Brad and then you guys were able to form a company that's serving people in this way that it's just truly, I mean, just having a conversation with you guys, it brings a ton of energy. You know this, I've been up for about 16 hours and it still gets me excited thinking about, hey, you have so much more that you can give. So, speak to when you guys were able to kind of get established with that.
Yeah, and what I want to say, guys, is like it can happen as fast or as slow as you want it to happen. So for me, it was happening really slow because I didn't have the courage as one.
Mm-hmm.
I only had a courage to do what I had to do for so many years. I had to get out of the marriage. It wasn't safe. Then I stayed in the job that I didn't really find fulfilling. But then I would make a slight change, always just playing it safe enough,
Mm-hmm.
just changing enough just to make the pain a little bit duller. And it wasn't until I met Brad and I started doing the hypnotherapy and I made those connections that I had more to fear by staying where I was at than I had to fear by trying something new. I had more reason to believe that I'd be successful and happier than I would be unhappier.
Mm-hmm. And not
But
to
whether you're in a
the
relationship or
thing
a
is, I have
career,
to make sure we make sure this point because
yeah.
Brad was doing something that connected. It wasn't the physical, okay, you meet Brad, you meet this great looking guy, and all of a sudden, no, it's the actual. I mean, not to, and I'm not saying that to throw any shade at Brad, but there's actual mindset that he has and a mindset that that you had, and you're like, okay, this principle, this thing that we can do now, it's able to be something because a lot of people, if you're not careful, you start thinking that the physical, like we were just talking about before, that the physical person is going to be the reason for the actual transformation when it's not. It's what can you actually accomplish or what's the actual thing that you guys are working on together, and that's the beautiful part about that story.
Yeah, and actually, when I he inspired me, I went and got trained myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my own transformation coach that he knew nothing about, had nothing to do with.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was going to go do my own business.
Oh, no kid, yeah, it's yeah,
Like I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to
yeah,
do
yeah.
it,
See, I'm
but I know it's the
learning like
right
you guys. I had
thing.
no idea about that. Yeah, this is news.
Yeah. And Brad's like, well, why would we both be doing the same thing with all that extra, administration and stuff behind the back? Why don't we do this together? And I'm
Yeah,
like, is
yeah,
that a good idea to
yeah,
like
that's
go
right.
into business with somebody you've only been dating for a year? I'm not sure.
Right.
But you know what? I did it. And
Uh-huh.
I don't regret it one bit. Has it been super easy? No. Has it been the most amazing opportunity for
Hmm.
us to bring us closer together? Because being an entrepreneur is no joke. I'm just new to this stuff, but it is
Not,
no
it's
joke.
not, man. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, for damn sure.
No. And so it provides tons of opportunities for us to both have to like watch our triggers,
Hmm.
feel our feelings. And then if you go to unlocklimitlessyou.com/resources, go to the joy regenerator.
Hmm.
We practice what we preach, we walk our talk. I want you to download that. It walks you through. Like when you feel that sensation, if you're in tune to your body, like I feel it, a tightness in my chest or my solar plexus. Some people start to yell, some people start to run, whatever that thing is that triggers you. We have a way for you to get back to your joy is a joy regenerator. And then I give you a little script, right? And use the script, print it out, give it to whoever you're doing it with. You don't have to memorize it, but a way to talk through the conflict, Oswan.
Hmm.
And that's been the aha moment. Like you said, when did you have the aha? When I decided to leave my job,
Hmm.
not knowing if I could make any money,
Yeah.
not knowing if I even had insurance. I had Cobra, right? Like I went from like control freak, play it safe, super successful ladder climber.
And this was decades at this point. So like this was what you knew. So it's not like you like
Yeah, no, no, no.
like
This, yeah, I
early
was success.
decisions, right? Like
This was just
teenagers.
a little over a year ago. I made this change.
Hmm.
Every day as one now is the aha moment.
That's beautiful.
Every day.
That's
I'm just
beautiful.
like, oh my God, I'm doing what I love. I'm connecting with people. I'm helping people. I'm not afraid to bring up things that aren't feeling well.
Right.
With my kids are changing on their own just by observing me being different. My energy is different.
And yeah, they're seeing the difference.
Anything that comes up, I don't, I used to like, I was one back to the relationship.
Hmm.
I would try and like do whatever I could, right? I was always going to make it work
Hmm.
because it was better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then like, oh, all the time you put in, like if you're listening and you're like, oh, but I've been here for, however many years and it's too late.
That's usually a lot the excuse a lot of them make.
It's not too late.
Hmm.
It's too late once you're 6 feet under, but it's never too late. I mean, I've even had clients that are in their 70s and they're thriving and loving it and changing, and it's like this whole new chapter for them. But if Brad and I broke up tomorrow, I'd be really sad, and so would he. But my mindset's so different now. And he and I agree. We want to be together. We want this to work.
Yeah.
Neither one of us is trying to manipulate, control, or convince.
Hmm.
And that's what a lot of relationships become. They don't become your ride or die. They don't
Hmm.
become your best friend. Like there are some out there, and those I love hearing about those and seeing those. But so many you'll see bickering couples. I thought that was normal because it
Yeah.
is normal, but normal doesn't mean it's healthy.
Right.
Normal doesn't mean it's all that's available to you.
Hmm. Now, the quicker you get there, folks, to where you realize you shouldn't be trying to manipulate. Now, listen, again, a guy been in football, I've been in locker rooms and had a lot of conversations with guys. So I get that's the way we're sort of moved as men is to figure out how we can manipulate this woman to do whatever she's going to do, and women same way. I know you're in a world that's pushing you in that direction. Every time you turn on TV, that's what's selling, that's what people push on you, but that is not the way it has to be. And bring that up because I'm thinking about how how deeply you guys, how deeply a lot of people get swallowed up in that world where they think
Oh
that's
yeah.
so. When it comes to finding clients and when it comes to finding people that are willing to open up, what is your process towards doing that? Like, how exactly are you getting someone in your world or in your business to trust you to the point where now I'm gonna really tell them, hey, I'm listen, Yvonne, Brad, I'm going through it, man. And I know for men, it's hard to admit these things. It's hard to really admit
Yeah.
to I don't know if I made the right decision because now you're talking about the mother of your kid. You're talking about someone that's been in part of your life, and I don't know what it's gonna look like if I let this one go. How do you guys get people to to open up and eventually become, part of your journey?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm watching my words.
Mhm.
I am not as seasoned in sales and marketing. So I am not, that's not my real focus. If you're listening, like hopefully I just attract you. I
Yeah.
know that people think like Yvonne, that's not how the world works, but
Mhm.
I'm focusing on attracting, not chasing. I want to help people that want to be
Amen to
helped.
that. Amen to that. That's it. That's it. And what's crazy is I've done a lot of sales jobs, and the best ones is when you have to live it. If you don't live it, you're not gonna be able to sell it. And that's the same. That's actually the same thing that because when I was like, he kept talking about the quiz, the quiz, the quiz. I'm like, how did you come up with the questions? He goes, I used it myself. This isn't some bullshit I'm just giving. This is Brad
Yeah.
talking to Brad, and we created this quiz because Brad is what needed this, and that's what I'm pushing. So if you're not living it, you cannot sell it. You have to live it. You have to be transparent. You have to really know it beyond knowing it and believe in it to the point where you feel like everybody deserves it. And that's why I ask because I know personally there's tons of men and ladies that they don't want to open up to this kind of stuff. They don't want to explain. They don't want to hear this level of truth. And when it comes to when they do come into your world, and you had already mentioned, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about it a little bit. Whether it is that 70-year-old lady or the 70-year like what happens to them? What do you see in terms of the transition? How do you see them grow? How do you see them blossom? Speak to that a little bit because I want to make
Oh gosh, there's so
go
many
on the
good
record of saying
examples.
that.
Um, People are like, oh, that's the other thing with marketing. You're supposed to niche. I'm like, but it helps everybody because this our
Yeah,
business, my business is the human being business. So if
yeah.
you're a human being, it will help you. It might
Pretty
even
much.
help
It
animals. I'm not
covers
sure
it
yet.
covers a couple billion people out there. Yeah.
But the thing is, oh gosh, when you come to us, we
Mhm,
will ask you what your magic wish is. What's the one thing you want to work on the most,
mhm,
right? And then we're going to dive into, there's another great thing, getting to the root of it in that resources. Then we're going to dive into what do you really want? Why is it really important what you're asking for? Because quite often it's on the surface and we want to get a little bit to your subconscious even before hypnosis.
mhm,
When we get to the root of it, what ends up happening as one is like you not only get what you asked for, but you get more.
mhm,
Like for example, I had somebody that had anxiety around money, even though she had money. That went away. She started her own business. She felt enough to do that. Her relationship, which was already fabulous with her husband, became even better. And now she's trying to pay it forward and like get her kids inspired so that they don't wait as long as she did. I
mhm.
have
And that
another,
on that point though, because there's a lot of people who do have a lot of money, but they're not happy because they don't really
yeah.
know how to they don't know how to manage it or it just came to them in a certain way. So there's still a lot of mindset work you have to do regardless of how much what's in your bank account.
Yeah. And then she also had chest pain and I didn't even know about that. And she's like, that went away. I don't feel that anymore.
Hmm.
So things like you were saying before, this doesn't apply just to one facet of your life. I had another gentleman who was afraid of public speaking, and now he is like helping not only is he doesn't have that anymore,
Hmm.
he's thriving with his children, his relationship and how he's managing a tumultuous ex and the whole impact on their child has changed. I
Yep.
had another client who was getting ready to get a divorce, and this was their last straw. And so coached them individually and then as a couple and helped them understand what their limiting beliefs were and then how they were once they got to know themselves, they had to reintroduce themselves to each other.
Hmm.
And this was a woman who had been in therapy for years. She wrote her own book about her childhood trauma. She's like, you're not going to get it to me. Like, this isn't going to work. And then it did.
It did,
I
right.
mean, it just the list goes on and on. Like Brad's helped other individuals. One guy, he's like, yeah, Brad saved my marriage, but he never met my wife, right?
Yeah.
And
I
this
think
all
I
happens in less
remember
than
him mentioning
in
that.
2 months,
Right.
right? Because you get to the root of it and you get to know yourself.
Hmm.
So I've had people improving their relationships. I've had people improving their jobs. I've had people improving their parenting. I've had people feel better, literally physically feel better from chronic pain that they had been suffering.
Hmm.
So it runs the gamut. You don't have to take my word for it. Like on our website, unlocklimitlessyou.com/reviews,
Yeah.
a ton of really like amazing people sharing how much we helped them helping themselves and now they're helping others. And that's what Brad and I were wanting to do. Like I'm not in this for the money. Like
Mhm.
I'm making a lot less money than I used to,
Right.
but I feel wealthier than I've ever felt in my life
So what
because
would
of
you
the
say
impact
is
we
like
can
the
make.
kind of the next goal or the thing coming down the pipeline? Is it to, have your own events and stuff like that? Kind of go into that a little bit, your vision.
For me personally,
Hmm.
my vision is to have a community, like, and maybe there'll be one here locally before I find an island, but I
Hmm.
want to have a healing center, like a community, right? There's yoga, there's meditation, there's art, there's dancing, there's coffee, there's wine, there's all the things, right? For people just to enjoy and
Hmm.
be as their best self and be as a connected environment. So that's my vision someday, right? Where I just can either people can live there forever or they can come and visit and then
Hmm.
also have a virtual community for people that can't afford that. So like right now, what I love doing, I have something called it's called Limitless Connections. So for people that don't want to do the one-on work yet, but they want to like get into a
Okay.
community, I call them a tribe. I absolutely love it. And I can see that growing. And
Hmm.
I would love to do, Brad and I talked about doing retreats because I think part of the challenge is um, people need to be taken out of their environment sometimes and have enough space to just be and to feel safe and to heal.
Hmm.
So I want to create an environment where people can feel safe and they have the time to heal so that when they go back to whatever environment that they're in until they can change it to something that's better, they have all the tools in their tool belt. Like some of the tools that we give for free on our website, they have all the tools in their tool belt. Like I've had clients say that all the time. They're like, the feelings still come up, or those people still do that. But they're like, I have tools now and I know how to deal with it. And rather than not knowing how to deal with it or being sad or depressed or, withdrawn for weeks, I use my tools and I'm good in less than, 30 minutes, less than 5 minutes, and then it just keeps going down, 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 down as they practice their tools.
Yep. You're, you're speaking of one. I deal with a lot of it every single day with the holidays coming up. It's one of those things where every year it gets to the point where I go to that toolbox so frequently and I don't let it bother me. I don't let it go into the next day. I don't let it go into the next moment, regardless of what other family members may be saying or regardless of how things may be happening or not happening or what I when I expected to have at this age. I know that, hey, as one, you're on this journey, you're doing things that are self improvement, and that's really the only thing that you can do at this point. But you can't go chasing, as you said. You got to really think about attracting. And when I'm
Yeah,
telling you, listeners, when you have that mindset, there's absolutely nothing you cannot accomplish. Now, not telling you it's going to be easy, but when you have the mindset of I'm going to attract what I want to attract, you do not feel trampled on this world. I mean, the thing you just said about being wealthier, feeling more wealthier, that's a real feeling. It's a difference between being wealthy and being rich. And when you walk out of your doors, walk into the world feeling wealthy, you're gonna attract what you need to attract, but
yeah,
you gotta do the work you need to be doing. So, I do
yeah.
want to be very respectful of your time. Can you again? You already mentioned it, but can you just tell people again how they can get in touch with you if they want to reach out for more? Where do you normally send?
Sure, sure. Unlock, right? So our company name's called Limitless You because we believe you're all limitless, and so are we.
Mhm.
So we want to unlock limitlessyou.com, right? And there's all those free resources on there. Definitely take the self-love quiz and just see what you learn. And then you can do exactly what Oswan did. There's a link to book a call with me. And we're going to talk about what did you learn and how do you take the next step in your learning journey? Because we're all on this journey and we don't ever want to stop, right? Because when you stop growing, you start dying.
Right.
And so Brad and I are also on this journey. And even in our tribe, like that's what they ask about the most is like for examples from like what Brad and I have experienced or gone through.
Mhm.
Like we're still practicing. Like don't believe social media. Don't believe like all the stuff. Like, and before I met Brad, I didn't even go on social media because I thought I don't have a Facebook family, right? So go
Right.
on there for inspiration, but don't let it like, don't, three things I'll leave you with.
Mhm.
If you can let go of fear, unless you're in mortal danger, judgment of self or others, and self pity.
Yes. Oof, that yeah. That
If
last
you can, anytime
self-pity
those
is
three
huge,
come
bro.
up, Like I'm working on the last one. I
Yeah,
let go of the fear of the unknown.
yeah,
Judgment was a hard one because I was a judger. And as a single mama,
Mhm.
like, and an entrepreneur, like it's really easy for me to get a little self-pity party.
About me, yeah.
But you got to catch yourself. When you have those three things, that's when leave you one last thing. E
Mhm.
equals MC squared. Everybody can remember that. The energy you want in your life is mindful thinking raised to the power of compassion and curiosity. So remember, everything, all the way that you're behaving, most of it is for a little you inside. So little Oswan, little Yvonne, little you, right? Your subconscious mind is very young. Your hardware is not broken, but your software is way out of date.
Yes, yes.
And so you need to get curious about what software you're running on, what thoughts you're running on, what conditioning you're running on,
Mhm.
so that you can upgrade it. And then you can have an upgraded life. And you don't have to make a ton of money to feel wealthy. You don't have to be in a relationship to feel loved. And you don't have to be with others to feel connected. That will all come. But
Right.
start with connecting and loving yourself, and then you can be a magnet. You can be a magnet to attract what you want. You don't get what you want, you get what you are.
Yeah.
So first be what you want.
Yeah. So, Yvonne, again, I'm looking forward to staying in touch with you, Brad. I every time we talk, I get moved. But the final thing I do to close out all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. Pretend
Yes.
you are back to young, maybe let's say what 14 years ago now. You're pregnant. You're the due date, like you just said, the due date is happening that day. Pretend that your ex-husband just said, "Hey, lost my job." Pretend that version you're pregnant again, pregnant ex-husband just says he lost his job. Pretend that version of you has just entered into the Zoom room. Give that young lady some words of encouragement, and we will officially close.
Yvonne, it's going to be okay. You don't have to control it.
Mhm.
And you're not alone. You have so many people that love you. It's okay to ask for help.
That's it. I mean, and again, if you're first time here, the reason I close out with that question, because if you are in fact in that situation, if you are in fact going through something similar where, like I said, there's an obstacle, there's a challenge that's getting in your way, I do that specifically so you hear it. You aren't going through it alone. There's some people out there, there's something that you can do. And the fact that you just said, hey, don't be afraid to ask for help. It's okay. Everybody needs it. I think it's the perfect way to end an incredible episode. So looking forward to working with you guys. Looking forward to staying in touch and all that good stuff. So everyone out there,
Yeah.
fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.